Good evening, everyone. I see already a ton of participants. I absolutely love that. So we're going to allow people to trickle in. There's a couple things I just want to go through just before we start with this, webinar per se. The first is it will be recorded. I try as much as I can to not let students know this because then they'll never attend on the fly, and I think it's good for them to attend on the fly. But I will go through after this presentation and, I'll edit it and send it out. So even if we go through, swiftly a lot of these different tabs, my intent is always at the end of this for the student to be able to have the video up and literally, ooh, what is he doing? All right, pause. And then you go to your Common App, pause, go to this section. So it's always meant to be a resource. This event was what I would call kind of a pandemic positive. We added it. I was part of a slew of virtual events where we turned the program upside down. And this was something that we added to the programming. And I said, this is that type of event that it's terrific when we could do it virtually and students could use it as a resource. So that being said, outside of that, the intent of this is, with most of the programming that we do, is we look at meeting 3 different students in 3 different places. And I usually will say that, in each event and how we present. The first student is the student that they're already done with their Common App right now. They've already gotten reviews. This is meant for them to be a reinforcement. Make sure that they've done every section well. If they're on the doorstep of applying and they're almost about to give a draft to their college counselor, maybe this will be something that they'll go through and maybe they'll tweak a couple things. Maybe they'll enhance a couple things. The second student is the student that they're kind of working through it. They still have a bunch of questions, but they're working through it. And this is really going to move them swiftly towards a draft stage. Okay. And then there's the third student who maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a student logging on right now, and you're saying, Mr. Lasser, this is kind of scary. I haven't even really started it. And it's a great event for them too. So they can go through this, watch it in practice, get comfortable with it so they could start to draft, and they can use this as a resource to move them. So let's look at it as 3 students. I would just ask everybody stay muted just for the whole time. Outside of that, at the end of this event, I will ask any families if they have any questions or anything, just to put it in the chat. I'm totally fine if while you're watching me go through this, you have it and you don't want to lose it. You write it down if you want, or you could just put it in the chat. I won't be offended in any way. Okay, so we'll do that. Outside of that, just a note on the class so far. I'm really excited about them. For the parents who are on here, for the students who are on here, they've done a terrific job. We've hit them, like most, based on the timeline. They've been kind of hit with a lot, early on. It's just the way that the schedule is. But the reason that we're doing that is because we want to make sure that they are totally supported, feel great about it, don't miss anything. And honestly, they're aces by the end of this. All right, they're aces by the end of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the Common App section by section. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, and I just want to give, if somebody could give me kind of like an emoji thumbs up or something like that, just to let me know that we're all good. All right, that would be great. Carrie, I'm looking at you. You should do it. So I know I had to do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go through first and foremost. When a student will, go into the Common App, this is like a totally clean, just start. All right. So when I talk to students, I always tell them we do this whole process in stages. All right. The first stage is for students to get to the point where they are drafting their full Common App. I say it's their main frame. Okay. It's before you get to figure out whether you're going to add 1 school to your dashboard or 38. All right. So the first part is getting through the Common App. When I mean that, it's all these different tabs that my cursor is going on the left side. All right. Green checks are your friends. The more green checks you amount, the more areas that you pretty much have finalized. And once you get to the point where everything is green checked, you're pretty much ready to apply. All right. So the first 2, so let me backtrack. This is the main Common App. And I always tell students, once you get your main Common App and your essay done, you're cooking. You're to the point where you're just looking at individual colleges, which I'll show you later on. All right. The first two sections I'm going to go through, they're very simple. They're really checkout points. It's a lot of profile information. So I'm going to start in profile, and I'll go through these first sections pretty quickly. Right? Personal information, your name, middle name, stuff like that, your date of birth. We go into the address, your permanent home address. All right. If you have an alternate address. All right. Your contact details. Okay. For an alternate phone for students, this is how colleges are going to contact you. If they want to tell you you're admitted, if they want to give you a decision, or if they want to tell you by chance you're missing something. I always say, always put an alternate phone in there, and put the phone of mom and dad who's very, very good with their phone. Everybody knows they have a parent who's really good with their cell phone, and probably one that's not so good. So put the one that's very good. All right. When you go into demographics, all of these for the most part are self-identifications. You can go through. So it's pretty much they're optional questions. Student doesn't want to, submit them, totally fine. If they submit them, fine. It's up to them. All right. It's just for them to get to know the student a little bit more. All right. Now I didn't go through this, but on the left side here, you'll see a green check next to activities. Now it doesn't mean activities is done. All right. To get that green check, if you look at my cursor, you have to get a green check on every single one of these sections. So when you're getting a green check on every single section, personal information, address, contact, demographic, then in the left corner, you'll see a green check on profile. So you won't see that now, but that's what's going to happen. We're going to see, ooh, okay, green check on profile. That means I'm totally done. All right. Number of languages you're proficient in. All right. This is a very subjective question. All right. Obviously, if you can speak multiple languages fluently, all right, then you could put 2 languages. For our students that English is speaking at home, they've taken foreign language in high school, there are a small amount of students that might be able to say, I'm proficient in 2 languages. A good way to look at it is if you were in another country and you could have a conversation and get by, if you are looking at text and reading something and you could get through it and read it pretty quickly without going back and forth to a guide, you might be able, you won't put first language, but you might be able to say, speak, read, or write, right? Most students will not be this, all right? But really strong foreign language students might, okay? So for this, most students will put, first language proficiency, it's English, but a student may be, bilingual and may speak, English at school, but they might speak Spanish at home. That's perfectly fine. They'll put 2 in there for one is first language, but they'll put speak, read, write, pretty much for both of them. All right. If you go down to geography and nationality, again, you'll answer this based on how you identify. I always tell students, if you're going to be applying for financial aid, always put your social security number in here. Eventually, they're going to tie things like your FAFSA and your CSS profile back to it. All right. So always make sure that you're putting that in there. If you don't feel comfortable, that's totally fine. But if you do file any financial forms, expect them at one point to get to you and say, listen, do you have your social or the student social? Because they want to pair it up to their FAFSA. Okay. The Common App fee waiver section here. All right. Most students would know if they have received a fee waiver in the past. Okay. If they have gotten one for the SAT or for the ACT, all right? If they have hardship or some form of hardship, they probably would have gotten waivers in the past for AP tests, things like that. The other thing is we always tell students is that in terms of waivers, if you feel that there is going to be a barrier from you applying, there's a certain amount of money, and there's a chance that you may not apply to certain schools or a certain amount of schools because of any type of financial hindrance, please let us know. We could talk about it. In terms of counselors, we do have some leeway to be able to, assist some students, okay? So if you go down, all right, after this, these are not, very few of these will apply to our students. Then if you go to family, this is pretty simple. You'll go through, they'll ask you parent 1, parent 2, they'll ask you occupations, they'll ask you siblings. One thing that students always slip up on, they'll ask them, did the parent go to college? If so, when did they graduate? What did they get, a BA, or did they get a BS? Did they get a master's and stuff like that? So expect the students to say like, Mom, Dad, did you do blah, blah, blah? So That's usually when you're those two things, that and when you need, when they need the credit card are probably the two times they're going to come to you. So, all right. So if you go into the next section, this is probably where the most questions will come at first, and then it moves into the other sections and they become plentiful. First thing here, it's going to ask you your current or most recent high school. So you would put Seton Hall Prep, your date of entry, which would be September. I forget the date, was it 2019, something like that, but you guys got that. Is it a boarding school? No. Will you graduate? Yes. Okay. If any of these, there's disruptions, if you're going to graduate early, did you take a gap year? Did you have a change in progression? Did you repeat a year? This is where you would talk about it. Okay. Here's the area where if you are a transfer, if you transferred into Seton Hall Prep, okay, I transferred. All right. How many secondary schools? I also attended, I transferred in, and I transferred in from Chatham High School in New Jersey. Okay. So you'll basically fill that out, move down. They'll ask you from when. And then down here, they might ask you, why did you transfer? Just be totally honest. Think about when you transferred to the prep and just give them an honest, maybe I wanted a change of scenery, different academic environment, extracurriculars. Be totally honest with it. I've worked with transfers in the past from college to college, and honesty is the best policy. You know a lot about yourself, and after the first run, you knew what you wanted in the second. So you never are negative or disparaging about the previous place, but you're always saying, it had this stuff, but these were kind of the things that I felt like I was missing, right? If you go into the next section, it's going to ask you, have you taken any college coursework? We don't have any consortiums with colleges. Some schools will have dual enrollment where you can take courses at a college while in high school. It's really, maybe they don't have a good AP offering or a good elective offering. Now, if by chance you've taken anything, maybe over the summer where you got college credits for it, this is where it would go. That is not for AP courses. Okay. Our graduating class size will be, I believe it's 217. All right. For class rank, you will put none. We do not rank. Okay. For the GPA scale, you will put none. We have mixed scales. Some students have taken classes that the highest they can get is 4.5, an A+. Highest is 5. Highest is 5.25. So when it comes down to it, we have different types of scales. I always tell students, if you put a 4 scale, you're inflating. If you give it a 5, you may be gypping yourself a little bit. So really when it comes down to it, there's a none. Cumulative GPA, I know my GPA is a 3.45, okay? For the GPA weighting, if you have taken any honors classes, you will check weighted. The only situations where you will be unweighted is if you, for 3 years, never took any advanced level course, just college prep, okay? Into the next section, if you go to current or most recent courses, all right? I understand that we are on trimesters, but your transcript is going to just show final grades, all right? So when they say how many courses, let's say you're at Seton Hall Prep and you're a senior, you're going to say, you know what? Senior year, I'm taking 7 courses or 8 courses, I believe, and they're yearly, okay? And my first course that I'm taking is, I am taking pre-calculus, okay? And on my transcript, it says pre-calculus honors. However it is listed on your Seton Hall Prep transcript is how you will list it in your courses. This is just meant to tie out, okay? Right. The course level, although I've said it's honors, sometimes it always won't be like that for every student. We put honors, all right? And the schedule is I'm taking it for a full year. Then I go on to my next one. And this one is an elective. The elective is speech. The level is college prep. If it's standard, it's college prep, okay? Pretty much for us, it's honors, AP, college prep, okay? And you'll list all of your courses. Why is this section important? I'll show you later. There are some schools that will solely make a decision on you based on your Common App. they won't even need support from us through Naviance. And there are schools that ask for courses and grades, and they will also lean on this section. So you want to make sure that this section ties out perfectly with your transcript, okay? Okay. Once you finish off those, you'll go into this academic honors section, all right? So do you have any honors you want to talk about? I'm going to say yes. What are the most common honors students talk about? If you are part of any national honor societies or any math honor society, they would go here. If you have achieved honor roll at any point, it would go here. If you're a Seton Scholar, it would go here. If you've achieved national merit, it would go here. If you're going to be an AP Scholar, if you have received any other awards that are academic within Seton Hall Prep, that is where this will go, okay? Now, what they ask you is, let's say that it is, I'm going to say it's National Honor Society. And I was inducted in 11th, and I'm also going to be in 12th. And this is for the school, but it's also national. Okay, I'm a part of it in the school and national. My second one is I got honor roll my 9th grade and 10th grade years. So I'm going to put that. That is just the school. Okay. So you get the gist of it. There are 5 here. Most common question a student may ask is, all right, 5 is usually more than enough. But a student may say, Mr. Oster, what if I do if I have more than that? A good rule of thumb with the Common App is this is your entire presentation of college. You leave no doubt, you leave nothing out. All right, so when it comes down to it, you will eventually in the additional information section say, in addition to my 5 honors and academic honors, I have also gotten X, X, and X, okay? And I'll show you that section later. That's a spillover section. Community-based organizations are organizations that help students with college, all right? They're funded organizations. If students have questions about these, some of the ones, I put one down here, like NJ Seeds, which might be helping certain students, based on their criteria with college and their, essentially for the most part, they're programs that are meant to kind of lift students, make sure they're getting, the help that they need. Obviously at the prep, they're going to get, great help, but these are definitely supportive as well. So other ones you'll hear of, ones like Upward Bound around the area and some others. So, okay. Right. If you go into the next tab and you go into future plans, all right, they're going to ask you your career interest. Okay. Now I want to be clear. This is not where they are going to decide. This is not where you're telling them what you're going to major in. It's a part of the Common App. I still don't know, to be honest, why they have it. I think they just want to make sure that the main Common App has some type of question like that. But as you go in here, you could say, you know what, I want to do something in business, maybe start my own business, and I'd like to get a bachelor's. Okay. But I want to be clear. A lot of students will put something in there. It's not the end all be all. That is not how you are reviewed, right? There are a couple sections that are the biggest misstep areas. This testing area is one of them. So I'm going to give some very easy, hard and fast ways to go through this testing section, okay? First and foremost, if you have taken AP courses, okay, and you have not scored higher than a 3, if you have not gotten 4s or 5s, do not self-report any of them for the first 3 years unless you've gotten those scores, okay? Now, if you are taking AP courses in senior year, you can report them because you don't have to put the scores. So you'll click on yes, and you would say, I am taking AP subject tests, all right? That's one thing. For standardized test scores, this is an area that is a self-report, all right? If you are going to go test optional to any school on your list, you will put nothing in this section. An example of a misstep. A student says, well, Mr. Laster, I'm going to be going Sending testing for 4 of the schools and 5 not. Okay, sounds good. They'll go in here and they will self-report their testing. What they are essentially doing is saying, I'm test optional, but here's my scores. So if you have even one school that you're going test optional, you leave this blank. The only students that will check yes for this are students that are sending their test scores to every single school on their list. And for students that are sending to no colleges, it's very easy. You will still just check no. Okay. So let's talk about the subject tests. If we say continue, all right. Another thing I didn't note, and I apologize in advance, these questions, if you look at international applicants, this is an optional question. If there's no red asterisks, it's not, you don't have to answer it. Think of it as like buying something on Amazon. If you don't do it, it's going to kick you out. All right. If it's an asterisk question, they're not going to let you get that green check unless you do it. Right? So let's talk about the subject test. Then we go in here and they're going to say, you indicated you want to give these subject tests. How many are you taking? Well, I'm taking 2 APs in senior year, and I anticipate I'm going to take them in 2023 in May, most likely. And I'm going to take 1 in bio. All right. I don't have a score. And then I'm going to do calculus AB. And I plan to take it, same thing, in May. And I don't have a score yet. And you leave it as that. Okay. We move on to, and I know I'm just going very, very quickly. All right. But as I said, this is also a resource and I have so much that I want to cover. So bear with me. Okay. Activities. This is a section that students will take a ton of time on. Okay. And we tend to make our biggest drafting revisions on this area. I'm going to do some sample activities, a few that are prep-like on here. All right. So do I have anything to report? Yes. There is a maximum here of 10 activities. A lot of students will do more than that. You are trying to capture every single thing that you have done since you've been here. Remember, leave no doubt. There is nothing that is worse than a student that was like, well, they only had 10, Mr. Laster, so I just left the other 7 out. And I'm like, please, I will explain. If you have more than 10, there's, again, an additional information section I'll get to where you can add your spillover. You'll put a title and say additional activities. In addition to the activities that I had, these are ones I also have been a part of over the past 3 years, right? So let's try a couple of these. Yes, I have activities to report, all right? They're going to ask you what type. What is mine? Mine is community service. My position is I am a Knight of Setonia. All right. The organization is Seton Hall Prep, Knights of Setonia. Okay. One of my least favorite parts of the Common App. First thing it says is describe this activity. Okay. Can't stand that for most of these. Now, for Knights of Setonia, they may not know what that is. So you are brief. A service-based organization, and be brief with that. The most important part of these descriptions is focusing on completely what you did. What did you accomplish? If you're an athlete, this is your highlight reel. Now, there's only 150 characters. So that's like an old school tweet. There's not a lot. You know, so when it comes down to it, I'm going to say I'm a Knight of Setonia. So what do? I have committed X hours to this service organization. I focus my service on the elderly population. I organized the spring fundraiser. this is just one idea. Let's act like, okay, that's fine. If you have anything to show that you specifically did, I organized, I led, I think of these words, these action words. Action words are huge. That's what you're looking for. All right. I don't want to hear about what it is. I want to hear your impact. Let's look at another one. All right. Or actually, we'll finish this one. I have done it all 4 years. Okay. Okay. Now, other thing is tones in this. Your tones should be consistent. If you go with I have done this, I am doing that, I did this, stay with that tone. I, all that. If you want to go resume type speak, you can do that. Committed XX hours, focused, service. You get the gist of it. So literally, you could, whatever it is, keep those tones consistent. All right. We want these apps to be nice, clean, and neat. So they'll look and go, oh, wow, well, look at all these prep kits. They're all just, they're great, which they should say. All right. So when it comes down to here, timing of participation, I do it during the school year. Students sometimes struggle a lot. For you guys on here, think like, how many hours per week? Just average it. They know it's not perfect, but try to get as close as you can. On any given week, I probably do 2 hours of service throughout the year. Okay. So I do 2 hours. And I know I got to do it throughout the whole year. So I probably do it the whole school year, which is give or take 36 weeks. Do I want to do it in college? Yeah, I'll do service in college. Sure. Okay. Good rule of thumb is if you really think that there's a chance that you would do it, just click yes. Okay. Just click yes. All right. Now, the next one. I'm also an athlete. Right? I play for the golf team. I shoot low. All right. My position is I'm the captain of the golf team. I'm the captain. And it's Seton Hall Prep, varsity golf. Now, I am an absolute ringer. I said I shoot low. So I received first team all county accolade. My team achieved third place in the state finals, achieved lowest round in Essex County tournament of 67. I told you I go low. All right. So that's just another example, right? It's what did I do? I got this, I got that. It's not bragging if it's facts, guys. Okay. So if you did it and you achieved it, it goes down there. Don't be too modest with this. You go through the participation levels, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then some. Okay. The order of this, you always put 3 things, always take precedent in your activities in terms of the order 1 through 10. The ones at the top are the ones that you have had the biggest impact in. You had maybe the highest leadership positions in. You have the longest duration in. And you always try to prioritize anything that you were selected by faculty and staff. Now, common questions are, Mr. Laster, peer leadership, it's a class, but should I put it here? It's an activity. It may be a class, but you also do a lot for it. National Honor Society, Mr. Laster, I'm part of it, but I also tutor. The tutoring part goes in here. So those are kind of dual arenas. Okay. So you get done with your activities. They're clean. They're in order. All right. Then you move on to writing. This is where you put your personal essay. All right. Now, I don't have any schools that are on the dashboard. I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. But you say, you know what? I understand, this. And what it'll do is when you put your schools on here, it's going to say, now that you put that school on here, they require the essay. These ones don't. Our rule of thumb, you take a lot of time, in your work with your essay. If it's optional, you 100% send it. That is one area you could tell another story. You give them another window. This application doesn't give you a lot of space to be yourself and provide the different dimensions of who you are. You take them up on anything. I'll get to supplements. If it's optional, you do it, because that's one more thing that you'll do that maybe another student does. And maybe that's one more element that you show them that might be intriguing to them. If you scroll down, this is where you check which prompt you answered for your essay. All right. You could either Google Drive it, or you could just drop it in there. Now, know when you drop your essay in there, the formatting isn't always going to look great, but I guarantee you it's fine. Okay. Most of the time, the formatting doesn't look great. It may drop in there and maybe all bold, make it unbold. But when it comes down to formatting, it will look crisp when they eventually look at it. This is number one thing that, not number one thing, but one of the things that students stress about a lot that they don't need to. Okay. Additional information. One of the most overlooked sections that I adore, where you get to paint your own canvas. All right. First, up at the top, they're asking if there's any disruption about COVID. They're not getting into run-of-the-mill, it's kind of tough being alone and not seeing people. That's not, if you read what they're getting at, all right, if you had a significant downturn, in grades, your health, your well-being, family circumstances, maybe you had more responsibilities, someone in your family was sick, access to reliable technology, study spaces, anything that completely upended you, that is where you'll put it, right here. You click yes, the box will come out. It's 250 words, so it's almost about paragraph to two, not too much, right? If you go down here, do you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications? Yes, I do. All right. You may use the space below to provide anything that you wish to share. Spillover of activities, spillover of honors. Do you want to highlight, this is one of my favorite sections for the student who's interested in sciences and math, and they've done so much stuff outside of school. They've done pre-college programs. What do? Pre-college program experience. NJIT. In the summer, I attended a pre-college program. XXXXXX. You could do anything you want with it. Think of this area as your highlight reel. It's just as much as the essay itself, 650 words. Maybe you want to talk about a good trend that you have. You want to take their lens and open it up and say, hey, look over here. All right. Outside of that, if you have things you've done towards your given major, they go here. If you have activities where you are looking at the activity section, you are kicking yourself saying, Mr. Lester, this stinks. do you know how much time I've spent on these activities? And I get 150 characters? That's not fair. This is your area. Peer leadership. And I'm singling that out. Robotics. Performing arts. I can't spell. Long day. Sorry, guys. Okay. All that can go here. You could take a conversational tone and talk about it. You could go resume kind of speak, where participated in blah, blah, blah. Totally up to you. But you got to utilize this as, this section. It's a great section for the highlight reel. And if you have other circumstances to talk about, maybe there's dips in grades, or maybe there's other things, our job as counselors is to definitely talk about that. All right. But outside of it, when you can provide it as well, it ties together a file. It makes it very comprehensive. All right. This courses and grades section, right now it says 0 colleges require it. There are colleges out there that I said before that they will review you completely on your Common App. All they need is your Common App and courses and grades. So literally that is it. They don't need support, recommendations, anything. You give them this and you're done. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. I'm going to put one school on the dashboard to show you that. And then I'm going to go into a few other things on my beautiful post-it here. All right. All right. So this is your main Common App. The goal is to get all these green checks all set up. Students will ask me, Mr. Laster, like you keep saying, like you can get me, like, you know, I can get you my Common App and I could send it to you. How do I do that? You know, we're not particular about how we get these to review. If you want to bring us a hard copy, that's fine. If you want to PDF it and send it to us, that's great. If you haven't finished the whole Common App and you want reviews on individual sections, let's say it's activities. You go to activities, this right area here, you click on preview, and it's going to give you a preview. You print it, you bring it in. If you have your entire app done, I'll show you what that will look like. And in the end, I'll kind of show you when we get through a couple other sections here, how you PDF the whole thing. And you could bring it in or you could just email it to us, right? So you have your whole Common App done. And you're trying to figure out, okay, well, now I know I want to figure out, like, how do I basically show where I'm going to apply? Well, again, I'm a Seton Hall prep student. I know that I'm going to apply to University of Maryland. All right. So I'm going to go into this search. I'm going to put Maryland. Down here, I'm going to see it's the one with College Park. I'm going to hit Add College. When I go now to the Common App, on the left side now, you'll see one college required. Who is it? Hold on one sec. Go down here. First and foremost, we put Maryland on. I'm sorry, but essay, it says they require it. And then if you go to courses and grades, they're going to ask you for the high school, but then after that, you're going to be able to go in here and they're going to ask you to put all your grades in. When you put all your grades in, just put final grades. I know that we're on trimesters, but what they're getting at is what they see on your final transcript, okay, or on your actual transcript. That's a big thing. Students are like, Mr. Lassen, the trimesters are weird and all that. For courses and grades, if you have any school that's down there and requires it, it's not going to let you apply without it. So it's going to keep driving you back to it. That's how you do it. So I've put Maryland on there. All right. If I click on first my dashboard, it's going to give me information about Maryland. It's going to show me I'm still in progress. I haven't submitted. I haven't done the Maryland questions. All right. On down here, it's going to say we need an essay and there's college questions. And it's also going to say this college does not use a writing supplement. All right. But there may be little questions we'll kind of get to. If you go to my colleges, all right, remember you have the main Common App and the essay. That's all done. What holds you back from applying to Maryland? Clicking on Maryland and doing their questions. Back when the Common App was consolidated, all these schools were like, we're on board. This is great. It's great for the student. They're able to apply to all of us in one shot. But then they realized that they weren't all alike. Obviously, if you put a question on there about nursing and another school doesn't have it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what they did is now they all have their own itty bitty questions. For Maryland, I click on questions. And these are specific to them. My start term, I want to go to Maryland for the fall. I know I want to do early action for Maryland. I don't have any of these waivers. I am going to apply for financial aid, all this stuff. You're going to go through all these questions that are Maryland sensitive questions, okay? This is the area where there's two places where students are going to get put to very important questions. Number one, when they ask you what you want to major in. Number two, if they allow you a second choice. There may be some strategy with, this is my top choice, but if I don't get that, here's a path of less resistance. I'm going to go for management, but if I don't get that, I'm going to go second choice, exploratory studies, which is a lot easier to get into. I just want to make sure that I could still have an option. Not every school will allow that. Some will just say it's first choice or bust. The other thing that you'll find is this is where you'll hear the word supplement, okay? There are some schools that have no supplements. A supplement means a supplemental writing. an additional writing outside the college essay. All right. Now, Maryland, there are different types of supplemental essays. I would say there's 4 different ones. One of them is usually they ask you about something in your experience, something about an activity, something about a community you're part of. They're asking you to just tell a story about yourself. Then after that, there is the one that is why us, or why us for a certain major, where they're asking you to do research from the inside out. What do you want and what do we have and why do we connect it well? All right. Then after that, there are ones that are more quick hitters. They're easy. They're fun. Okay. And then after that, it's the optional, tell us anything you want. Tell us anything you want about yourself, anything creative about yourself, totally up to you. There's the academic ones that need a lot of research, why us, which you need a lot of research, and the rest are really ones where you either do them off the cuff or you're talking about yourself. Okay. Let's look at, all right, outside of these supplements, the other question that students will stumble upon a lot is the test score question. Most schools in this country are test optional. So we expect as college counselors that before students answer this question about testing, Maryland, for example, okay, I'm a 34 ACT. You're going to submit your scores because their averages are probably somewhere between 28 to 32, 29 to 31, 32. You're a 34. That's a strength to you. I'm a 25, Mr. Lasser. Nope, not going to submit that. I acknowledge they won't be considered. Sure, I don't want you to look at them. All right. There was no supplement per se for Maryland, but if you look, there's this little area here called complete that sentence. These are the easy ones that students love. All right, so I'll do them very quickly. If I could travel anywhere, I would go to an area in Switzerland, probably. That place where you can ski and it looks like the big mountain in like the Grinch. Most interesting fact I ever learned from research was the weight of the human head. I mean, I thought that was pretty crazy. Okay. In addition, my academic interests include Spanish. I like Spanish. My favorite thing about last Wednesday was eating buffalo wings. When I think of diversity, I think of customs, foods, dialects. Something you might not know about me is I write righty, but play hockey lefty. All right, so you get the gist of it. Let's go to another example. I am going to apply to Penn, to University of Pennsylvania. Okay, so I'm going to find that. Blah, 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 blah. Where is it? Penn State. Hold on. I'll get this University of Penn's. Okay, and I'm going to add it to my dashboard. That's how I signify that I'm applying. All right. If I go to, again, my colleges and I click on Penn, Penn's a little different. They are stating, not only do we have a writing supplement, but it's not really embedded in the questions. We're going to put it right here. We're leaving it out there for you. Let's take a look. Okay. What are the writing questions? What do I have? What am I up against here? Write a short thank you note to someone you have not yet thanked and would like to acknowledge. 150 to 200 words max. How will you explore the community at Penn? Consider how you'll shape your perspective and identity. That's a me connecting the dots one. What do I, how am I going to shape myself at Penn? What am I going to do? What am I going to be a part of? What am I going to study? What is my interaction with that community going to be like across the board? And then how is what I'm bringing going to shape Penn? What do I bring to the table? What perspectives? What background? And how's it going to shape other people within the community? Right? Then, considering your specific school, how do you intend to explore academic and intellectual interests? Again, what do I want? And what am I going to do when I get there? I want to study. I don't know right now, but I definitely want to look into neuroscience. But I also have an interest in psychology. And I'm not sure which those will be, but I really want to explore within the college, and hopefully by the second semester or third, figure that out. I also might want to do research, things like that. All right. So those are those, questions. All right. So when are you ready to submit? When you have all these green checks throughout your Common App, your main Common App, and then in your questions, you have a green check on the Common App. I've talked to students about the recommenders in FERPA section, which they have to fill out to match their Common App with Naviance. So that will be checked off. Once you have green checks on questions in this area, you will hit review and submit Common App. It won't submit, so don't be petrified of that. It will generate a PDF, and then that is when you could send it to, your college counselor and they could take a look at it. Okay. You submit your app. What happens? Usually there's like this little thing that comes up that's like confetti where you could push it a million times and it goes, congrats, congrats, congrats. It's a nice touch. All right. The other thing that happens is once you submit, the colleges will tell you how they're going to communicate with you. They might tell you, we have sent an email to you with your portal. You need to log into your portal. Most decisions and also tracking of materials happen within a college portal. So University of Maryland will say, thanks for applying. That's awesome. Okay. Once you get to the point where you hit review and submit, you'll take a look at it. You'll hit submit. Then they're going to ask you to pay. You're going to fill in a few things, certify it, and send it in. Then they will send you an email that says, congrats on applying to University of Maryland. Here is your portal. Here's your ID number. Log in, make an account. You can track your materials in here. And when we have an update on your status, we will let you know. Okay. Or they will tell you, we will communicate with you via email if you're missing anything. And eventually we'll let you know when we're going to announce. And they might do it via email. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now, I know I went through that extremely fast. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right. And I am going to take a look here. I am going to go to the chat, and for 15, 20 minutes, however long, if anybody has any questions, I'm sure one will help everybody. We have 100 people in here. That's why I love the prep. I love the families and students, because the programming that we put together, you guys take us up on, which I think that's a good thing. But feel free to throw something into the chat. Students, do not be scared at all. Throw stuff in there. I'll kind of wait it out. I'll take it as it comes. And yeah, I'm fully aware I went through that quick, but remember, I'm going to edit, record this, and send it back to you. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for your first question. All right. Right. So the question is, are boys able to make an appointment with you to go over the Common App with you for tweaking? Yes, the answer is they can make an appointment with whoever their college counselor is at any time. Go to them. Hey, for me, I always tell students, if they're like, Mr. Lester, I'm done with my Common App, I will just tell them to send it to me. I can edit it. If they have questions, they can always come in and say, Mr. Lester, I just need to first have some questions answered. But if it's materials, I always tell them, don't make a meeting for it. Just send the materials and we'll go through and we will go through them, tweak them, and then we'll let them know. Someone said, you said when you submit the app, guys, can you just make sure you're all muted? Can you just make sure you're muted, please? Okay. So you said when you submit the app, it won't be sent to the college, but it will go to the counselor. No, that's not. When you submit the app, or when you preview the app, it will not be submitted to the college. When you preview the app, it generates a PDF. You can then download that and send that to your college counselor. All right. How does the application get submitted? It's not through Naviance. You submit it through the Common App when you're totally ready. Okay. So instead of when you hit preview and submit, there's another key down there that will say, do you want to move forward to submit? You won't do that. You'll just generate the PDF, download it, and you won't submit just yet until you get the reviews you want. Question for the application costs. I'm going to have a little bit of tea here. That was a lot of talking. For the application costs, each school will require their fees to be paid prior to students getting access. Correct. When you get to the point where you submit, all right, you will hit, I want to submit. Then it's going to ask you to verify the app. and then it'll tell you, here's our price, credit card information, stuff like that. And then eventually you'll submit. Then after you finally paid and submitted, they will give you the access to the portals. All right. Should my counselor review each college application? Well, let's put it this way. There's one main Common App. That's one review. If you want them to review your individual questions by college, sure. You could always print them out and bring it in. Whatever you want to do. If you're ever uncomfortable with anything, we'll review it. When applying through the Common App, does the financial aid application have to be completed together? They are completely different. All right. Financial aid applications, every single college is going to require a FAFSA. That is on the FAFSA website, FAFSA. You'll go to that. That will happen outside by the parent. It has no bearing on Common App. Those are two different things. There are some colleges too that will ask for what's called the CSS profile. It's done on the College Board. There's only a few hundred private schools that ask for that. If you go to each college, they will tell you what they require. Most throughout the country only ask for a FAFSA. A good rule of thumb with financial aid forms is that whatever the school requires, you want to get that filled and submitted by the time of your student's application deadline. So if they are applying by November 1st or 15th, you want to get those in at the same time as well. That's a good, solid goal for parents, and you'll always make sure that you're reviewed for everything and you don't leave anything out there. Okay. What comment would you put for a student who was on JV for 3 years and hopefully varsity spring senior year with no leadership positions? You would put JV, all right, for that. If by chance before they apply, they're told they could tweak it, but you can't really put varsity until you're on it. So what you would do is you would put, you want to intend to play it in grade 12, and you would put JV next to it. You know, if you know you're going to be in it senior year and you don't need to be selected or elected, it's just going to happen, you could put whatever position that is. Okay. So if by chance, because one way, if you don't make it and you put varsity, then you're lying. But on the other hand, you protect yourself. If down the road you get it and you want to send it to admissions, you could do that. All right. Is there any benefit or consequence for not answering a question which is required? It's not a benefit or consequence. If you don't answer it, you won't be able to apply. So every required question has to be answered. Optional questions, those are totally up to you. There will never be a student that it'll be a negative. The only thing that I would say is a negative is if they offer you optional supplements and you don't do those, because you're just wasting an opportunity. Okay, it's a good place. All right. Regarding deadlines with Common App, is the deadline on a school by school basis, or is there a common deadline for schools that UCA? Very good question. They are all different, but there are there's a general framework to it. Most schools that have an early decision period and early action or single choice early action have a November 1st or 15th deadline, or at the earliest October 15th. Most of them are around that. Most regular decision deadlines for apps tend to be in January and February. But is every single school the same? No. But you're going to start to see a lot of kind of Coke and Pepsi between November 1st and 15th for early action and early decision. To how many students, so how many schools do students apply on average? I would say for the most part, when we advise students, they traditionally are going to have somewhere between 7 and 8 and 10 schools on their list. That's a byproduct of how we advise. If they want to go over that, we are fine with it, but we still want to make sure that they have balance on the back end of it in their likely section and their probable sections. Where do we submit information about jobs? That's a great question. Okay. Jobs go in the activity section. All right. So work is a part of it. It'll be one of the tags. And if you don't do it there, or if you have more of a work overload, you could put that in additional information. What about letters of rec? Some schools don't accept, some accept them, some don't. Yep, that's correct. Also, some say it's optional, but only for honors college. Does guidance make this decision, or does the student submit in the Common App? The student first, when it comes to letters of rec, if it's optional, they're always going to go through, because pretty much we're going to have a student always put 1 or 2 teachers on there. And if they allow the second teacher, it's going to be submitted. So they don't have to make any determination. They just need to request their teachers. And if they allow 2 or more, the recs will go. Okay. If they're not required, that's not a problem or not allowed. The student will still put the colleges on those recommendation request forms, but they'll be grayed out when the teacher and the counselor goes to send. It's no problem for the student. Okay. So in terms of college placement, in terms of going through and what we decide, it's not really our decision. You'll just kind of go through the process, and anytime that there's an option where it says, do you want your essay included, you would check yes. Okay. The most common things that they're going to ask is not the recommendations. They'll just ask, essay is optional. Do you want it included? You always say yes. Always. Okay. When is the deadline for the completion of the Common App? Depends on the school. Okay. How do you connect your Common App to Naviance? I went through that in the discussion series on Tuesday. I sent you the notes with that on how to do it. There's a how-to section in there. And then it also, in that section, discussion notes, I sent them in the messages in the portal Tuesday. That explains it. Does the school you have a list of scholarships that the boys can apply it to? Scholarships by college, no way, because there's 3,000 to 4,000. We do get community scholarships, and we will post them on Naviance, but there's not a ton of them. If we do get anything that's more of a lead, a community-based one, we will list that in Naviance, and it usually happens after January. Is it necessary to fill out the FAFSA if you aren't pursuing financial aid? No. I'm still interested in pursuing merit-based scholarships. Here's something to watch out for. If a student is automatically reviewed for scholarships based on their file, you're fine. There are some schools, not by FAFSA, but if they take the CSS profile, they may not review a student for all scholarships if that's not submitted. So if you go to your students' websites of the colleges that they're applying to, and they say they automatically evaluated for merit based on their file, you are good. You have to do nothing, but check that out. Okay. Now, if you're asking, well, do you know which ones? There's 3,000 to 4,000 schools. So I don't have that type of depth. I don't have enough time. I got 2 small kids running around. So I wish I did. I'd be pretty good. Naviance is not allowing us to add colleges I'm applying to. They don't allow you. You should not. In the discussion notes, it says once a student has submitted their transcript request form, then we add to the colleges that they're applying to. Match has been completed, but we can't see the colleges. Makes perfect sense. As soon as the form is submitted and the college counselor puts them in there, then you view them. You cannot do that yourself. Okay. How do we submit a character recommendation to a university from someone outside? I would first have the student talk to their college counselor to see if it's worthwhile for sending. And then after that, the general ways that are going to happen are threefold. Either the student is going to send it directly from themselves to college admissions counselors and say, could you please add it? Some colleges will take it, some won't. It might go direct from the person writing the rec to those colleges. The student would need to give them contact information in admissions, or they would have to just give them contacts for direct mail. And I think that kind of covers it. Wow, I said I wanted to go to 7:30. I could take one or two more questions, and then I know I probably didn't get to everyone's, but you could best bet if you have any other ones, we'll answer them. A good rule of thumb too for the parents that are on here, we really go through everything with them, in school, and I always make sure that we send all of the information. We make it clear to the students, take this process in 2 parts. There is one part which is the forms, which is the majority of their file that is going to be their file for admissions. If they submit 2 forms, that's going to be about 75 to 80% of their file. There is no order of when they don't need to apply to submit those. In fact, most of the time, we want to send all their information out, teachers and counselors, before they even apply. The other piece of it is the thing that the students control with reviews from their college counselors. Common App, essay, supplementals, that's pretty much it. If they're submitting test scores, they handle that too. So take it as the things that students control, and then the students, there are 2 forms that they send where everybody else controls things. All right, last couple. You said you reviewed how to connect CA to Naviance on Tuesday and notes were sent. What date that Tuesday you're referencing? Last Tuesday. During the activity period, I sent the message to every parent in the portal and every student in the portal. And in addition to the notes on submitting the forms, I also submitted the 2 forms for them to be able to save and utilize and then submit. Okay. So it was Tuesday. What was last Tuesday? Well, you guys can look it up. Search in the messages by Laster. It'll all come up. I've been emailing like wildfire. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's great. Little ones, yeah, they're really healthy. I'm a lucky dude. They're in good shape. Thank you so much for saying that. I like that. 9:20. I get a parent answering. Thank you so much. All right. I'll take one more, but if not, everyone can feel free to fall off. I will edit this, and I'll send this back. Oh, thank you very much. You're the best too. I will send this back out to everybody. And again, for the parents, if you're on here or students, just feel free to ask questions, really drive the student to own this process and go through, get to us. We know we're going to meet them in different places. This is not going to be the same for everybody, but generally speaking, we know what we can provide for each. So just take us up on it and we'll all get to the finish line together as a unit. And everybody will celebrate together as a unit. I'm really excited to see what this class is going to put together and, what we're going to do as a village kind of to support them. So. No, thank you. Thank you very much to everybody. You all have, a great night and thanks. What an amazing, over 100 people. That's outstanding. Okay. That's outstanding. It's a credit to our community. All right. All right. I will hang out, but I'm going to drop off the camera, but everybody have a great night. Go get something to eat and then go Pirates.